Fine, ladies and gentlemen. Well, three very interesting presentations. I think we now, if you like, move into what I would describe as engagement mode. This is where we want to obviously involve you in debate and dialogue, particularly on what you've seen and what you've heard, but also your own ideas in terms of sustainable mobility. What we've done with a view to provoking things, if you like, I'm told we have some provocateurs in the audience. So we have obviously identify one or two people who will lead the discussion. But first of all, we have two commentators, and I wonder if Glenn Fromer and Eva Sunnerstedt could come and join us. I mean, if you're more comfortable or you're happy speaking from the floor, Glenn's happy from the floor. Eva, do you want to come up on stage and talk from here?
I have a few slides.
Come and do your, all right, why don't you, ladies first, why don't you present your slides first, and then we'll ask Glenn for his comments. Thank you.
Will somebody?
I think we need a technician, sorry.
That's okay, I can start. Okay, my name is Eva Sunnerstedt. I come from the city of Stockholm, and I work with clean vehicles and fuels, and I'm in charge of a public procurement of electric vehicles that we are currently doing nationwide in Sweden. First of all, just one slide showing you the city of Stockholm, which is the capital of Sweden. We have around 800,000 people living in the city, but sometimes we like to take in the municipalities around us, and then we are almost 1.9 million people. And as you can see, we have a lot of cars, and also we are situated on 14 different islands, which is part of the beauty of the city, but also part of the transportation problem when you have water as a barrier. We have a lot of public transport in peak hours. 80% go public transport in Stockholm, which is very high for a Scandinavian city or Northern European city. We have a congestion charging zone. You pay when you enter and exit the city with your car. We also have an environmental zone for heavy vehicles. So heavy vehicles older than 8 years may not enter the city at all. We have some improved air quality in the city throughout the years, but we still have problems with particles and NOx. We are the European Green Capital of this year, which we are very proud of. And we also have the vision to become an electric vehicle city by 2030. So it's good that there's so many of us that have these electric vehicle visions. Sweden has very good conditions for electric vehicles. We have a very good electricity mix. We have a production system with a good capacity. We have low electricity price. We also have very good infrastructure, which you might not be aware of. We have engine block heaters already installed. We preheat our petrol cars in the winter in order to reduce emissions from them. And our populations are used to plug in their petrol car already. So the habit is already established, and the sockets are there already. So we can use them for electric vehicles. Most of them can be used just as they are. Some of them need to be upgraded, but still we have electricity wires going all the way to the parking places of a lot of family homes and a lot of parking places at workplaces and so on. Also, Swedish people have a high environmental concern. They buy a lot of biofueled and hybrid cars already, and we believe that they are very ready also for electric vehicles. We have a lot of charging infrastructure growing up. Even though we have the engine block heaters, we also have a lot of charging infrastructure, slow charging mainly, growing up already. So now we just need the cars. So we did a pre-study to see what the interest is for doing a nationwide procurement of electric vehicles. We interviewed the car industry, and they request a large market for electric vehicles if they're going to introduce them in a country like Sweden. They need charging facilities of the cars, and they need incentives. They need to, other places in Europe have incentives for vehicles, like high premiums, about 5,000 euros if you buy an electric car, and we didn't have that at that time in Sweden. So that's why we compete with London and Paris and Berlin and other large cities like that. So we could see that there is a very large, we did a questionnaire to a lot of public organizations and private organizations, and we could see that the interest is there. Well, the infrastructure I told you about is already there. Well, we need to improve the economic incentives. So we decided to do a national procurement, and we got funds from the Swedish Energy Agency. So now we gather municipalities, county council, and private companies all over Sweden to join us. Our goal is to have at least 150 organizations, and we will procure about 6,000 vehicles in total. We have now a compensation, so the first 1,000 vehicles that are sold within the agreements will have a 5,000 euro funding. However, we just recently had elections in Sweden in September, and the new government it's the old government that's running again, and they have now proclaimed a new incentive of state funding of 4,000 euros for what they call super clean cars. And we haven't really gotten the definition of the super clean car yet, but it will be electric and electric hybrid vehicles for sure. So the situation has improved a lot. We're going to buy cars and vans, both plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles in various sizes. And we have already sent out the invitation. We are now collecting the buyers who want to buy with us and their amount of cars that they want to buy. And we will do a tendering process in 2 steps, where we first will be qualifying the bidders. So if you are the auto industry, you need to answer to us in January or February if you want to qualify. And then the bids will be taken in May. So that was it. And I will also like to point out, this is me about 10 years ago, when I'm fast charging an electric vehicles in Stockholm. We had 4 fast charging stations in the 90s, and we'll see. We will put some of them back in, I hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As is often the case, Scandinavia leading the way. Glenn, I think you've got some comments you'd like to make. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Glenn Frommer. I'm the head of sustainability development at the Mass Transit Railway Corporation here in Hong Kong. Probably the best mass transit system in the world. We move 4.1 million people a day here in Hong Kong, worldwide 6.4 million. We in fact run the Tunnelbahn in Stockholm. We also have franchise operations in London Overground and the Melbourne Trams. Mass transit. I'd like to follow the view that the chairman raised. This is an issue of mobility. People want to get from A to B. Whether I use a 2-wheel electric, a 3-wheel electric, a Mercedes-Benz A, E, or F, I'll probably be stuck in congestion in the cities that I live in. So the issue is, how do we remove congestion? And that's where you need mass transportation. Mass transportation is exactly that, mass. You move a large amount of people here in Hong Kong, as I said, 4.1 million every day. 42% of the trips in Hong Kong are by the MTR. Now, with that, let's take into consideration, how do you pay for public transport? Because most people, if they can't afford a car, will take a 2-wheeler or a 3-wheeler or a bicycle or walk. Probably the greenest way to get around. How do you afford public transport? In Hong Kong, the mass transit has championed a unique model where we own some of the air rights above our stations. So IFC2 developed the airport railway development, Kowloon Station, where the profits from the land sales are plowed back into the railway. We are one of the few railways in the world that actually generates a profit, and we do that quite handsomely. But what about other cities? How can they capture transport-oriented development revenue? There are new policies that need to be brought in. Looking at safe and efficient systems, again, mass transit leads the way. If we can reduce the congestion on the streets, we can get the electric buses, the electric cars, 2- and 3-wheelers moving more quickly, more efficiently. How can we improve intermodality? How can we get a fast transit from mass transit to electric cars or vehicles. We wind up with a huge amount of bicycles around stations, for example, in Copenhagen, where you have bicycles in multiple racks. Those are the kinds of issues. Don't think about it only as a technology looking for a solution. People want to move. That's why people come to cities. Cities are where the jobs are. Cities are where there's life, education, health capability. We need to address mobility, not just the solutions. And I would hope that when we have our discussion here in the audience today, we try to put a contextual spin and try to understand how do we improve people's mobility and how do we pay for the kinds of technologies that we're talking about. But remember, let's not introduce a technology that's going to introduce more risk and have to have us develop a newer technology to avoid the risk that we're introducing. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right. Bikes to buses to mass transit, and combination of all lot, the whole lot, obviously. Could I now ask Cherrie to come and join me up here? Cherrie is going to lead the discussion. We have, as I say, a number of guests in the audience who wish to comment and have been invited to comment. So, Cherrie, if you come here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. For these sessions, I think it's an easy part or the difficult part. The speakers this morning tried to minimize the emissions of pollutants, and I try to heat up this environment by more participation from the floor. And I recognize some familiar faces who've been the practitioners across the country, cities, and we've just know about the big bus, electrical buses in Seoul and other countries. Maybe I would invite Raymond Lowe, who's Executive Directors of Great Dragon International Corporation Limited, to come to share with us some experience in China on the electric buses.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share some experience of using electric buses in mainland China. And many people smile to me when I'm saying I'm representing a company in China in making electric buses. So let me tell you a little bit about the background information about China. You know, China is now want to use electric vehicles. They have a lot of subsidies in order to jumpstart the use of electric vehicles. And in particular, for electric buses, the central government is now giving a subsidy, 500,000 RMB for each electric buses. If you want to buy an electric bus in China, they will give you a subsidy, 500,000 RMB subsidies. And in one provinces, in Shandong provinces, they are particularly interested in using electric buses. So they give us additional subsidies, 300,000 RMB. This means everyone, if you want to license electric buses in Shandong provinces, you will give 0.8 million RMB for one electric buses. So in the past few years, there's a lot of trial being done in mainland China, especially in the Shandong provinces. And in early next year, after several trial of the electric buses, the local government is thinking that the technology is being mature enough to use in a larger scale within the city areas. So they built the largest charging station in China, in Shandong provinces. This charging station was opened in June this year. It could charge 21 units of buses and 15 units of private cars. And they are planning to have 15 more charging stations to be built within 3 years.